What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Now you may have seen the title and thumbnail, and yes, there is absolutely huge changes about to go down on the Goldfish Mega Tank. Now I've actually had this tank as a bare bottom, completely empty setup for quite a long time, and I've had loads of people who really love it and loads of people who really hate it. Now I fancied a little bit of a change, and we are going to be going back to a substrate based aquarium. Now maybe this is the wrong move, but I previously had a substrate based aquarium and this actually had 80 kilos of black sand in it. However, the reason why I changed from that was because I was having problems with the sand. There was way too much sand in the tank and it was causing water quality and water clarity issues. However, today I've actually got some new sand that's going to be going into the tank. I've got 40 kilos, so half the amount, and hopefully we're going to just get a real nice thin layer across the bottom, and so we don't jeopardize any of the water quality problems. Also, I'm going to be changing the UV bulb, putting a brand new UV bulb in as well, and we're also going to be returning to the bubble wall. Now, I'm going to go into all of these details and my reasons and choices in actually episode number 2, but in today's episode, what we've got to do is completely drain the tank. I'm completely cleaning it out, and I'm also going to be repairing the filter, and I'll talk a little bit more about as we go on. But the first job we've got to do now is drain the tank down, get the fish out into the vat, and basically just get started. So let's get draining the tank. So as you can see, we now have a small pop-up vat set up next to the tank. What I'm going to do is drain as much of the water as I can into here. I think this probably holds around 500 litres, 400 litres of water, somewhere around that in total up to the brim. I'm going to move the fish across, I'm going to move all the biomediate across, and then I'm going to set up an air pump, just keeping the water turned over, keep enough oxygen in there and keeping the media mature. Then I'm simply going to drain this tank all the way down, completely clean it out. I want it to be a complete fresh start. Then I can repair the filter, let the silicone on that dry, fill the tank back up, obviously get the sand in and get the air stones and the bubble wall sorted in the back of the tank. So the first job now is to start pumping water into here, getting the fish moved across and getting the tank drained. So as you can hopefully see behind me, we've got the water starting to fill up in the vat, and I'm simply just draining it out of the tank with a small 2,500 litre pump. I'm going to get the fish moved over once we've got a bit of water in there, and also I'm going to get the biomediate moved over that's in the filter at the back. Then I'm just going to drain the rest of the water out into the garden, and I can then start the cleaning process and repair the filter. Now I haven't really spoken about the filter too much, not sure if you're going to be able to see behind me in the reflection, but essentially when I produced this tank, or when I built the filter on this tank, I didn't actually consider the weight of water within the filter when doing a water change. So when I drain the water down, what happens is the filter stays full of water, and this caused a lot of pressure on the acrylic. So the acrylic is actually cracked or split apart. So essentially what I need to do is drain the tank down, re-silicone the edge of the filter where it's just split apart, and then I'm actually going to put some holes down the bottom, just a couple of drainage holes, just going to drill a few holes in there, so when I do a water change, the water can come out of the filter and go back in. Now the holes aren't going to be big enough for loads of dirt and debris to go into the filter, but they're just going to be big enough to make sure that the water has a route in and out, so this doesn't happen again. But that is really the only issue I've had with this filter. Otherwise I'm really happy with it. So I'll catch you guys when the vat's full and we can start moving the fish. So the vat is about half full now. Unfortunately, we've got a leak on the vat, which is really annoying. So it's already leaking right down the bottom, but I have it sitting on loads of towels. So hopefully what I'm going to do is move the fish over now, get the rest of the tank filled up to around 3/4 of the way. I'm draining some water now out into the garden. So I want to get it drained as quickly as possible, get the tank cleaned, get the filter fixed, and then start filling it up, or get it maybe a third of the way full, so I can get the fish back in the tank but allow that sort of top half of the filter section to dry. Now the silicone I'm using is gold label, so you can use it in underwater applications, and there's going to be no pressure on the acrylic when it is underwater, so I'm not too worried about it breaking. I just want to give it a few hours at least to try and cure a little bit. So I'm going to start getting the fish into the tank now, and then we can move the filter media over as well. Now we've got all of the fish in the vat behind me, as you can see here, so they're all in there. So now I'm going to remove all of the filter media from the filter section, and I'm going to actually put that in here with the fish. Now I'm draining the tank down. I've got the pump pumping outside, and I've also got a siphon hose running outside. So hopefully the tank's going to drain down in the next 30-40 minutes, something like that. So I'm just going to start cleaning the tank up, getting rid of all of the algae. I want to make sure it's completely clean, ready for the filter repairs, and then obviously we can start getting the sand in and the bubble wall as well.
A few moments later.
So I've now got all of the filter media out of the filter, and here you can see where it's split apart. So because of the pressure in the filter when I've been draining the main tank, it's actually caused the filter to split apart. So I need to just repair that, attach that back together with some gold label silicone. But as you can see, the tank is now really dirty because I've been rinsing all of the filter media in the water. So next up, what I've got to do is clean all the glass, clean the bottom, clean all the lids, clean all the bracing, and just make sure the tank is nice and clean. You can see how much filter media we have in here. It's taking up probably a quarter of the vat. There is so much filter media, and that is why the water stays so clear, and it means I can feed so much food. So I'm going to wait for the tank to drain down now, start getting it all cleaned up so we can keep on top of the process and make sure the fish don't have to be too stressed and stay in the vat for too long. So I'll catch you once the tank's drained and clean. So now the tank is drained. As you can see, I cleaned the bottom, I cleaned the glass, and I cleaned the back walls. So I'm just waiting for the last few litres of water to drain out, and then I can start repairing the filter, changing the UV, and getting our new bubble wall and air stones installed into the bottom of the tank. Now the algae will return to the back wall. I just wanted to clean it off as it may dry out and die off, and I didn't want all of that organic nutrients going back into the system. Now in episode 2, or the second part of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I decided to get rid of the bare bottom, why I'm going with sand, and just a little bit more info about it. But now I'm just waiting for the rest of that water to drain. So once that's drained, I can then do my repairs on the filter, make some slight adjustments that I wanted to do as well, and then we can install the bubble wall. So as you can see, I got the new UV bulb installed into the UV, and I've put that all back in position. So now that is all attached up. I also took the pump out, cleaned the impeller, made sure it was all working. It's a little bit dirty, but not too bad, which was good to see. So that's all now connected up. So now the next step is for me to put 2 holes or a couple of holes into that filter right in the back corner. So now we can allow water to come in and out of the filter without any resistance, which will prevent it from splitting apart and coming apart, as you can see, like this in the future. So I'm going to put a few holes in, and I'm also going to put a hole right down the bottom so we can feed our air lines for the bubble wall down there as well. I got all the holes drilled, so now we have water able to flow into the filter, and there's going to be a nice equilibrium to prevent it from breaking in the future. And also we got the hole drilled for the bottom, so now I'm going to run the air lines, and we're going to set up the 2 air stones and create that sort of bubble wall effect in the back of the tank. So finally, I've got the filter siliconed in place, and I've also got the bubble wall fixed. Now what I used was I think they're 14-inch air stones, so there's one there and one there. I've also siliconed a few suction cups onto the bottom. I can always remove these if I want, but I just want them to stay seated, and then obviously hopefully the sand is going to cover it. Now, I did manage to get loads of silicone all over my hands, so please, if you use silicone, do wear gloves. But it's obviously going to come off, but it's just a little bit annoying. But I'm glad I got it all done. So what I'm going to do now is just wait a few hours. I could actually just fill the tank up because there's not going to be any pressure on the filter, and it is gold label silicone, so it will cure underwater, and it is for fish, so it is fish safe. However, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait a few hours because the fish in the vat are doing absolutely fine. I'm going to put the sand in now. I'm not actually going to wash the sand because I've used this one many times before and it never actually is very dusty, which is really good. But I'm going to put the sand in now, see what the coverage is like. Maybe I'll need a little bit more, but I'm hoping 40 kilos, which is about half the amount I used last time, will be just enough. Now, for the sand I'm using, it is actually from my local Maidenhead Aquatics. Hopefully you can see here. So I've just got two 20-kilo bags of this. There's a little bit of water left in the bottom with a bit of detritus, but I'm not too worried about that. I got the majority out. The filter's clean, the media's clean, everything going back in is clean, so I'll put a bit of filter fleece in to catch any of the dirt. But I'm going to put the sand in now and let's see what the coverage is like. So as you can see, the sand is all in and we have the tank now filling back up. Now the silicone has had a couple hours to dry and I'm going to give it a little bit longer. As I've said previously, there's not going to be any pressure on the filter, so it will just be able to set under the water and it's not going to cause any issues. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the tank up probably about 5 to 6 inches in depth with tap water. Then I'm going to pump all of the water from the vat back in, so the goldfish are in a pretty similar temperature as to what they were before. And then I'm just going to let it sit. So I think we're going to get probably to about 40% of the way. I'm just going to leave the fish then in the tank. They've got a lot more room. You can get the filter media back in. I'll wait a couple more hours and then I will continue to fill the tank up to the top to get the whole system running again. So I'm going to get the tank filled up now with some chlorinated tap water, then we can start pumping in and I'll catch you when I start to put the fish back into the aquarium. Now the tank is around 40% full, maybe just under, and as you can see we have the fish in the vat just behind me. So I'm going to start putting them back in the tank. I've also added the filter media in the back section. As you can see now, that is back in the filter. So what I'm going to do is add the fish back, pump the rest of that water in, and then give the filter another 2 hours or so for that silicone to cure a little bit more before we fill it up and get the system running again. So that is it, the fish are all in the tank and I'm going to end today's episode here. I'm going to wait a few more hours, as I mentioned, for the silicone to cure a little bit longer before I fill the tank up and get it all back up and running. In the next episode, as I mentioned previously, I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I decided to go for the sand option and just change things up a little bit. But I'm really happy to say all of the fish are absolutely fine. We've got no issues whatsoever. So stick around for part 2 if you want to find out a little bit more about why I've decided to go this route with the tank and why I've decided to change it up a bit. But that's it for today's video. If you do have any questions, please leave them down below. Thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up and happy fish keeping.